You're listening to the Nobody's Podcast. If you've listened to even 5 minutes of any episode, you know that we have severe issues with food and being isolated with our refrigerators is not helping. So we asked our dear friend and our favorite registered dietitian, Angie Asche of Eleat Nutrition, to come on and give us some advice on how to come out of this isolation with just a little bit of dignity. I'm excited about this one, so let's just get right to it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Nobodies.
Hey guys, what's up?
What's wrong?
Nothing. I was just
I didn't like
catching. I was trying to do a catchphrase from 1999. What's up?
Oh, that was bad.
I know.
It
Really
sounded like you
terrible.
kind of like burped it out.
Well, I mean, that was basically what I was doing.
I'm going to turn my air conditioning off.
Why? What's wrong with it? Can you hear it? We're on Zoom again, everybody.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear it, but it was like, it's blowing on me really hard, so.
Really? Oh, well.
You
Don't
know,
want that. Don't
sometimes
want that.
it's in here during isolation.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Annie, well, how are you winning this week?
I had a good one, and now I'm forgetting what it was.
What?
Well, one, I've worked out every day of my 31st year.
Okay. Well, you've been 31 for 7 days.
Okay, but for a full week, I worked out every single day.
All right. Seriously, that's good. That's good. But that should be expected.
No, you're supposed to take rest days. Rest days are not the devil. Like,
how many? And how many would your brother Ben say to take?
At least one.
Really? He takes a rest day?
Well, Ben is Thor, and Thor takes rest days.
Thor just lifting his hammer.
Yeah, exactly. No, but he also paces like 20,000 steps in his own apartment. So
that's too much.
Too many steps.
Yep.
Oh, I know how I'm current winning. I remembered.
Okay.
So a couple of my girlfriends and I, for the last couple of weeks, have been doing like a dinner exchange once a week where we draw names out of a hat and we make that couple dinner. And so last night is when we did it. And I actually made one of Angie's recipes for the couple that I drew, and they loved it.
Really?
And then Brittany.
What did you make them?
I made the pesto chicken. I don't know what it's called, but it's basically a chicken with pesto on top, tomatoes, and mozzarella. So it's like a chicken caprese type thing.
Okay.
And I served it with.
Wait, so how did the dinner exchange start? First of all, that's a great idea, especially right now, because it gives you A, something to do, and B, like, just lifts your spirits.
Well, exactly. So it was just a random idea that Brittany had, and so it's
your friend Brittany, who owns Cycle.
Cycle. It was just like a random idea she had a couple weeks ago. She's like, let's draw names and make dinner for like each other. And it's so fun and one of my favorite things to come out of quarantine. Like, I think we're going to continue to do it.
Okay, so what did you get? What meal did you get?
So Brittany got me this week. And
okay.
He made Tuscan chicken sausage with white beans and spinach. It was.
Is everyone in this like a master chef?
I literally wanted to like bathe in it. It was so good. It was like such a good form of comfort food.
Yeah, and it sounds like relatively healthy too.
Yeah, I mean, nothing in it was bad, and it just got like tomato sauce in it. Oh my god, it was so good. I have some leftover that I'm gonna eat this afternoon for lunch.
God.
Yeah. Last week I made chicken enchiladas, which are a specialty of mine. And last week I received chicken verde.
Chicken verde.
Which is just like chicken with like it's kind of like a Mexican dish with cilantro, lime rice, and it was really good too.
Wow. Oh wow.
Well, from people that are good at making rice that this is obviously not the healthy way to do it, but it tastes much better, is to use chicken broth instead of water.
Oh yeah, that would make it so much better.
My God.
I've been buying this like flavored, we can just talk way for Angie, but I've been buying this flavored, it's probably not the best, but it's chicken flavored cauliflower rice, just at Ralph's. But it tastes so much better. Like,
So much
just
better.
like the flavoring of it. I'm sure there's so much more freaking salt in it, which is not good, but it tastes a million times better.
Have you seen Right Rice? The
Only
brand?
from you, only from your Instagram story.
Okay, you have to try it. It's so good.
And you can get them, so it looked like you had the Spanish one.
Yeah, so I think there's Spanish, original, and like garlic and herb.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good. And it's so easy to make. You literally boil 1 1/3 cup water, dump the package in, stir it, turn the heat off, cover for 12 minutes, and then it's done.
That's so
It's
easy.
made out of like lentils,
And it's called Right Rice.
right rice. It's made out of vegetables.
It sounds like a tongue twister.
We need to ask Angie about that actually, because watch, I'm like raving about it and telling everyone to get it, and she's like,
Yeah, don't do that. I know, same with my thing. Well, I am current winning because again, this isn't really a win. I don't know why I keep doing this, but I spent all Saturday very hungover, as you can imagine. And
I can't imagine.
what?
I said, oh yes, I can imagine.
Well, so I kind of just took I mean, it was just it was a great like lazy day, and I watched like 12 movies, and I ordered $30 worth of Chinese food, which actually lasted me the whole day. Normally that would have just been one meal, but I think I couldn't physically eat it all in one sitting, that I had to save it, and but it fed me for the whole day, so I didn't feel as bad for spending $30. But then, and so I finally left my house at like 8 p.m. to go get a treat at the local 7-Eleven because I felt like I deserved
Double
it.
Quest Bar special.
Yes, but they didn't have Quest bars. They had, I bought these like, which are actually more diarrhea inducing because they have like more protein, and they're just like, they're like 32 grams of protein, and I ate 2 of them. I don't know what's wrong with me. This is what we have to ask Angie too.
So constipated.
They're called MetRx bars.
Oh, I've seen them.
Have you heard of them?
I've heard of them. I feel like those would make you more constipated than anything.
We're having some
Oh, can you hear me?
difficulties. Yeah, now
It's my stress connection.
Oh, you love your strong Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But what the whole thing is, my whole thing is that I honestly, and I swear to God this is true, I honest to God forgot we were in a pandemic. For like a split second, I drove up to the 7-Eleven and I pulled in, and all these people were wearing masks, and I was like, I literally was like, what the fuck is going on? And then I remember, and then like after 1 second, it would like only took a split second, but I was like, then the whole rest of the day, I was like, how did I forget that we were in this? Like, I spent the whole day just like, worrying about my hangover and worrying about my headache and sleeping for 2 hours in the middle of the day. And I just had not a care in the world. It just felt like a regular old, hangover day.
Jeez. I had a moment like that last night, actually. Not where I forgot, but where I was kind of like, what is going on? So T and I went down to check out the bioluminescence.
Really?
Yeah, we got he's always down for this, but I got a wild hair and decided at 9:30 that we should go look at it.
Wild hair.
That's a mom.
That was a Bryceism.
That for sure. That's also a mama Will thing, she says.
Yes, I was just gonna say that has to be a Mama Will thing.
Yeah. It was so cool.
Where did you go? Venice?
No, Hermosa.
Okay, so explain to everyone who like may not know what that is.
So it's basically like a thing that occurs every few years, or like I don't even know if they know exactly when it is, but it's a type of algae that's in the water, and when the waves break, the water lights up. It looks like there's fireworks in the waves.
That is so cool.
And last night was the strongest full moon of 2020. So the beach was like really kind of bright and we could still see it. It was so cool.
Oh my gosh. So wait, where did you go again? I'm sorry.
Hermosa.
Hermosa.
But it took us 20 minutes to find parking. Like there were people everywhere.
Talk about quarantine.
I mean, the beaches are closed. Like the cops are blocking it off and people are just like walking right by them.
Did you physically go to the beach or did you have to, oh, you did?
Yeah, we like walked down onto it. We didn't stay
far. That's really far. Hermosa's far.
But you can't see it everywhere.
Oh.
Like it's best in Hermosa, Huntington, and somewhere in San Diego. And I didn't want to drive all the way to Santa Monica, and they're being so strict in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get there and not like, they're just chiller in the beach cities, and they are.
For sure.
So, anyhow, that was cool.
Okay, well, before we get Angie on the line, I want to play a bit Annie's Approval, which is the segment, if you guys aren't aware of, where I tell Annie a headline and of things that are going on, and she either approves them or she doesn't.
Yes. This is my favorite segment that we do.
I know it is. It's actually really fun for me too, because I like finding things that I know you're going to mostly disapprove of. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so the first one is, this is interesting. So Adele posted a new photo which shows her significant weight loss, and people are saying how like gorgeous she looks, but it's sparked a debate. Basically, have you seen the photo?
Yes, she has the tiniest waist.
Yeah, so people are saying that, oh, you look amazing, you look so good, blah, blah, blah. But then other people are saying that that's like not reverse fat shaming, but they were like, basically, she looks amazing. She should be praised at all because Adele is amazing. Like, she's an amazing singer. What do you approve of people having this debate?
Here's the thing. I understand what they're saying. There is an Instagrammer actually that Emily and I have taken up issue with recently because she kind of does this, like in an effort to not fat shame, she actually skinny shames.
Okay.
And I think both are unproductive. My thing is, I think this is something that Adele worked really hard for and that she wanted people to have that reaction. Mm-hmm. And so good for her. Like everyone she looks incredible. Yeah,
she looks great.
I mean, yeah. So
I don't think anyone, I mean, yeah, I don't think anyone's taking away from what she looked like. I mean, no one's taking away from her talent and everything else. Like it's just, it's a way. I do feel like there is a pressure. I feel like Melissa McCarthy was like this. Obviously, Melissa McCarthy wasn't like that drastic of a weight loss, but if you look at her in like Bridesmaids and you look at her now, like she's obviously
drastic weight loss.
Yeah, I mean, it was I should say that, but I mean, I guess not as like an Adele,
Right. Well,
but at the same time, there is a pressure to look a certain way, even if it's not like pressure. Oh, like Melissa McCarthy was like the bubbly, friend or whatever. But in order for her to kind of like make it in another area, like to be a lead, I feel like I bet she was pressured into, like, even from herself. Like, she probably felt pressure from herself, not like from other people. I don't think that happens as much anymore in Hollywood.
I'm not even on television and I pressure myself.
Yeah, it's being in LA. I mean, I think LA does that to people.
I think society in general does that to women.
Definitely.
Yeah. But no, I mean, in terms of people having the debate, no. Knock it off. Annie doesn't approve.
Annie does not approve. Okay. Courtney Cox is rewatching Friends in quarantine.
I saw this.
Do you approve?
100%.
I mean, but what she says, she can't remember anything on the show. She says she remembers like things that happened in real life during the show, but not stuff. Isn't that just seems wild to me?
See, I think that's fair. Like, I think that makes sense because like when I'm doing my job, if I go in and I talk to a doctor, sometimes when I leave, I've like blacked out during the conversation. Go into just like autopilot.
Right. That's true. Okay.
So I think it's awesome. And she said that she goes, it's actually pretty good.
She goes, who would have thought?
Greatest
She goes,
show
who
of
would
our generation. Idiot.
God. Okay. Little Women star Florence Pugh, I think I'm saying that correctly, is dating Zach Braff, who is 21 years older than her. Do you approve?
I don't think Zach Braff is hot enough to pull a girl 21 years younger than him. So,
or like, I mean, not to say that I'm sure he's still rich, but like, it's not like he's 45 and she's 24. That's math.
I just don't think he's hot enough to get a girl that much younger than him, but good for him.
All right.
You know,
You're gonna love
to judge someone's relationship.
What?
You know, I'm the last one to judge someone's relationship. Also, it should be noted that Zach Braff's like maturity level is probably that of a 21-year-old. So he's probably right in the right age range.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
True. Okay. All right, you're gonna love this one. Elon Musk names his son. Okay, this is what it is on paper. XAEX21 Musk. But it's actually pronounced X and the AE is pronounced Ash. X Ash X12.
X12.
Sorry, not 21. 12.
X12 stands for Archangel.
Yes.
Obviously, this is something I do not approve of.
No, but like, what? Also, he's having trouble with California laws because apparently you can't have numericals in your name. Like, you can't change your name to like, I mean, I don't know how Prince did it, but obviously there's a thing that you can't have like Roman numerals or numericals. You can't have that in your name. So literally the law might not approve of this.
Good. Honestly, good. That's absurd.
Okay, last one is Kesha is pampering herself during quarantine by using body butt sheet masks. Do you approve? A butt sheet is basically a face mask for your ass.
Totally. Why not? It's almost summertime.
She has her boyfriend put him on her.
Great form of foreplay. Good for them. Kesha needs some like goodness in her life. So I approve of whatever makes her happy.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. That's all I have.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can text Angie and have her jump on now.
Yeah, you better tell her because I have some questions.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You and I obviously talk about diet all the time, but there's just certain things that I can't not get over, but I can't seem to get rid of. I know you may hate this, but I've actually lost weight in quarantine. I know. I'm sorry. But
you know what's funny is I weighed myself this morning after I thought I weighed in at my heaviest ever yesterday, and I was down 7 pounds.
Okay, see, this is what I was going to tell everybody. So Annie,
hold on.
Fine.
Then I'm like, oh, that's weird. So then I moved the scale to a different part of the floor, and I weighed in 6 pounds heavier. So then I moved it to another part of the floor, and I was back down 6 pounds. So my scale, I think, is just completely fucked. So I don't even know.
Yeah. You know, what you need to do is like, why? I'm like making movements and no one.
Yes, I knew it. T just said he did the same thing, and it was different every time he moved the scale.
Okay, then you guys need to invest in a new scale. Number one. Number two, you need to do not the inch thing, the
measurement.
Like you need a what?
Measurements.
Yes, you need a measurement thing that I actually got. It's like a waist measurement thing. That's the best way to do it because that actually shows that you're like what you are.
Yeah.
If you're losing weight and you're in certain areas. Like I do it for my arms, my chest. I mean, I want those to get bigger, not smaller.
I want those to get bigger.
And then my waist to get smaller. But I mean, seriously, in my waist, I've been eating like straight fucking broccoli for like a month. And I still cannot get rid of my midsection.
For Angie to come on here and tell you that you're not eating enough.
Annie, I am drinking, like I'm consuming 300 grams of protein.
Okay, you're probably eating too much protein. You're supposed to eat 1 gram for every pound you weigh.
Okay, that's to maintain your muscle.
Okay, but you're also not lifting with heavy enough weight to grow your muscle.
True. Okay, that's true. But I'm lifting my own fat ass. I mean, I'm doing body weight stuff.
What do you weigh, like 170?
170? I weigh at least 200, like 190, if not more.
Okay, well, you don't look it. I don't look like what I weigh.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
She said she's about to jump on.
Okay, great. Because we're going to get to the bottom of this. I mean, maybe not, but.
I got a late entry Instagram question that we may or may not ask.
Hi, Angie.
Hi, guys. What's up?
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for
I
having
like
me.
your sign.
I like your hair. You know,
Yeah.
is that new? New hairdo?
I mean, I've been growing it out from quarantine a little bit.
You know, it kind of reminds me of Bradley Cooper a little bit.
Stop it!
Are you kidding me? Oh my God!
Stop it! No.
Annie, do you hear this?
I swear to God, if you cut this part and use it as the episode, I will punch you.
Oh, man.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I know
Love
it.
Angie, no, thank you for coming on. Annie, do you have anything to say
Thanks for
about
coming.
my hair? About my hair.
Yeah, Ann.
I'm gonna take scissors to it when you're sleeping.
That's what I want to do.
Oh my gosh.
Now.
Well, Angie, we've just been talking about how, like, just in quarantine, like everyone's probably eating more than they should. And like well, first of all, everyone's fucking baking like they're Betty Crocker. So yeah. I'm curious as to see, like, even my mom, who is like she said that she's gained weight because all she's been doing is baking.
Yeah.
So is there anything that people can, like, right off the bat, just sort of like, are there any like things that they should gravitate toward as opposed to like
not baking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my advice, just stop baking.
Yeah, stop baking altogether.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good start. Like, if you find yourself eating those kinds of foods often, maybe like don't bake them would be my number one tip. But I mean, obviously right now people are kind of gravitating more towards those foods because carbs are super comforting, right? Like high sugar, butter, those things are really comforting in the moment. But then, you know, after the fact, then you kind of are like, well, why did I eat, 6 or 7 cookies? There's a lot of stress eating going on for sure. Stress baking going on. So I think instead trying to find some activities that, like, maybe making a new recipe that's not baked good, or trying to kind of revamp a healthier dessert, you could say. So one that just has a lot less sugar, or maybe you use like a natural sweetener in there instead, like dates or something, fresh fruit, things like that. But I think definitely finding some activities to keep your hands busy too, that aren't going to be like sitting in front of a TV and snacking or things like that. That's just going to add to the issue, because there's a lot of stress eating going on for sure.
Speaking of sweeteners, really quickly, because Bryce and I were talking about this yesterday.
Yes, I was just going to bring this up.
Can you hit on the difference between stevia and Splenda?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, so stevia comes from, and I like geek out a lot when I talk about nutrition, so if I blab on here,
Yes.
this is fun. I usually do podcasts with like I don't know, other health professionals, but just like talk with my best friends, it's fun. So
We'll talk to people who know nothing about what's going on.
So stevia comes from a plant. So there's a stevia leaf, and it's like really, really naturally sweet, like 300 times sweeter than sugar. So what they do is they take this plant and they basically like refine it down to a powder and then use it in food as like in really small amounts because it's so super strong. And then Splenda is the same thing as sucralose. So that is a man-made sweetener. They actually make that in a lab. And that's been linked to some gut issues, especially in really large amounts. So it can actually like impact your gut microbiome a little bit. So that's something where like if someone struggles with like IBS or gut issues, then they need to cut those kinds of things out. Sorry, Annie had to.
No, I was talking to Annie, and I was like, because she said she was doing a recipe. Oh, she made margaritas for Cinco de Mayo, and she sent me the recipe because obviously I make, Angie, I don't know if you know this, I make anorexic margaritas. I've patented that, actually.
Terrible trademark name, but okay.
So we were talking about, and she said that she had, she was putting stevia in there, and she's told me before how artificial sweeteners give her headaches. So I was like, isn't that going to give you a headache? And she's like, stevia is natural. And I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's Splenda. It's the same thing. And she's like, absolutely, it's different.
Well, but not always. Sometimes they can sometimes they'll take stevia and they'll like do things like, if you've seen Truvia before or like that. So what they do is they basically mix it with like sugar alcohols. Okay. So they basically take like a little bit of stevia and then stevia leaf extract, and then they'll combine it with like xylitol or something. So you do have to be careful. And and look and see.
And so like, obviously people aren't, that's interesting because like, obviously people also aren't moving around as much. Like, would you suggest people should like minimize calories as well? Because since we're not moving around, like, because that, I feel like everyone's like eating and then not going anywhere.
No, for sure. And especially if you're like stuck indoors all day, I think that's a super easy solution. I think right now, one thing that people could really take advantage of is just like being more aware of what they're eating, because a lot of portion sizes at restaurants and things like that, they're just like so huge, far beyond what we actually need to eat, that if you're at home and you're actually taking this time to like learn how to cook, or at least cooking some of your own things, then you can kind of like start measuring a few things out and getting an idea of like how much you're actually eating. And then of course, like take it back a notch too, if you're not as active. So maybe if you're not, going on, what did Ben say last week? He goes on like 10-mile walks. Like, first of all, how do you not get so bored? I don't know.
It's like, how many podcasts can you listen to?
Yeah.
Like the same song over and over again. God, I mean, I can't do that. I've been like, that's another thing with walking and stuff. Like I love going on walks and stuff, but my God, I'm so sick of my neighborhood. Like I need to get somewhere else. I cannot walk past the same thing. Because before it was like, I was in a foreign land. When I started walking around my neighborhood, I was like, oh my God, it's like, I didn't know this was here. And I didn't know that there's like 85 body shops all in a row right outside my door. And I'm like, oh, I never even knew if I ever need to, get into a wreck and have to change my door. Something.
You really need a change of scenery. Yeah, for sure. But I think that's a really good point, is if someone's not able to like get out and be as active, then what a simple solution, right? To just cut down a little bit on what you're eating. But instead we're kind of doing the opposite right now. Like we're always closest to our kitchen. It's right there. So I think a lot of people, when it comes to like, not necessarily just weight loss, but just changing body composition in general, one thing you can do is really try to handle the environment that you're in. So a lot of people, they'll say like, oh, I just don't have the willpower, but really your environment plays a huge role in your success. So if you change, what foods you have around you, what foods you don't have around you, the people that you can't really change the people that you're around right now if you're like quarantined with one very bad influence, but that obviously has a big role in your success. Annie's pointing to herself.
That's very true. But I mean, like, are there certain foods that are like, I want to talk about moderation, because I think Annie and I have talked about this before, and I have no in certain aspects, like you were talking about how like, oh, I'll eat 7 cookies or something because it is like comfort. But I mean, that's me in and out of a pandemic. Like I just, there's a lot of things I can't help myself with. But at the same time, like if you told me, okay, you, for example, like celery, like, oh, you can eat as much celery as you want, blah, blah, blah. Like that's what I would eat until I'm like about to throw up.
Would that satisfy you though?
What?
Would that satisfy you though if you ate like 15 celery stalks?
No.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious if there are certain things that like if there's somebody like me who just can constantly eat something until they're sick. Is there any sort of food that would be good?
Like boredom eating, and you have a different issue on your hands.
Yeah. That's true.
It's not about like, hey, let's pick a food we can do this with. It's about like, hey, let's fucking change that behavior.
Yes.
Okay, this is not a you're not my therapist right now. It is.
Well, I'm your therapist every day. Second of all, I also suffer from this issue.
Okay, so there's a lot to digest here.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Quite literally.
Yes, quite literally. But I think overall, just foods that are really high in fiber are going to be like your best friend because they're very filling and they're indigestible carbohydrates. So basically your body doesn't digest them. So I hate like the saying like free calories, but in a way it's just they are so filling that like take for example like spinach, broccoli, pretty much all vegetables would be in this category of like don't eat it until you like want to puke by any means, but they would definitely be a food that you could eat a ton of and not have a negative impact on your body composition, which I think is kind of what you're asking. Vegetables, things like I don't know what else, like oats or whole grains. They're just going to be so filling and so satisfying because they are so high in fiber that hopefully it doesn't take you very long to get to that point. But I would also be curious what the rest of your day looks like, because if you're getting to the point that you're like feeling like you have to eat so much of something, then it may be worth kind of eating more earlier in your day or just kind of like revamping what your day looks like as a whole so that you don't get to that point altogether.
That's true.
Okay, that leads us into an Instagram question that we got.
What?
Can you hear me? Sorry, my very strong internet connection.
Yeah.
The intermittent fasting, yes or no?
Okay, so I think it really is going to depend on the person. I will say I've had some clients that they find it really helpful. More specifically, the ones that tend to eat like snack really late at night, because it kind of just stops them from eating late at night. Really, the reason it works is because it creates a calorie deficit. So it's not some like magical thing of eating between certain hours is why you lose weight. It's more so because when you do limit the times of the day that you eat, you're limiting overall the calories that you eat in a day. So you're creating a calorie deficit without having to like do any math or really think about it. And that's why people like it, because they're not having to count their macros or their calories. But I will say that the research is kind of mixed with females, to the extent that if women, for some reason, when they fast for longer than that, like around that 16-8 method, so longer than a 12-hour window, they're actually shown to have higher cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone. And over time, that high cortisol can actually lead to basically holding on to more fat or having a harder time losing body fat. So with women, I never suggest longer than 12-hour window. I also, if someone has a really unhealthy relationship with food or like a past eating disorder, I also say let's completely stay away from intermittent fasting, because in a sense, it's just another way to restrict, right? It's just now you're not restricting like the food necessarily, but you're restricting like what times you're eating the food. And that could potentially, once it starts to impact like your social life, that's when I say, all right, that's not healthy anymore. But there's plenty of people out there that they are very successful with, a 16-8. That's just what they stick to, and they see good success with that. So I think it can be a good thing for sure.
Gosh, Angie, I would be such a great case study for you. I mean, I have tried literally everything, and I'll like read an article and be like, oh, I have way too high cortisol levels, like without any research or any sort of thing. I just am insane. But Amy, I'm sorry. I cut you off. I apologize.
That was so nice of you for apologizing.
I apologize a lot.
He does. That's another thing we need to unpack in therapy. No, I was going to say with the intermittent fasting, there's like, you see articles and things like that says if you use a pure fat source or whatever in your coffee, like that doesn't break your fast, or you're allotted 50 calories or whatever. Like, what's that?
Good question.
Great question. 50 calories, yeah, you would be fine, especially if it's primarily fat, because what that basically means is it's not impacting your blood glucose or your blood sugar levels. So if you were to put, say, like 20 or 30 calories worth of like coffee creamer or something in your coffee, that's not going to break your fast. But if you're doing that in a sense of like, oh, this is going to give me enough energy to get through the day, I'd say, well, maybe you could like reconsider and actually have like some substantial food there, like maybe like a banana or maybe something that, and so of course that would break your fast for sure. But it's just kind of something where like, if you're trying to just have coffee and cream in the morning as like your energy source, you should definitely actually have some food that contains energy or calories to really help with that.
So for people who aren't intermittent fasting necessarily, like, do you do the, and especially during this time when everyone's home and stuff, is it best to do like the 3 meals a day, or like, 3 big meals, 2 snack meals or whatever? Do you do the 5 small meals, or what would you recommend to clients who are?
So it totally depends on the person, but I will say that like right now, the best thing that you can do is create a routine. So regardless of like what that looks like for you, maybe try to make it whatever you were doing before, if that was successful for you. So if you were eating 3 solid meals before quarantine, then go back to doing that. Or if you were doing, like I usually do 3 meals and 1 snack, sometimes 3 meals, 2 snacks, just because I like snacking all day long. Then go back to doing that. But I'm in the situation where I've always worked from home for like 6 years now. So even though this has definitely impacted my business to the extent of like my clients are now all virtual, it's still pretty much the same, where like I wake up at around the same time. I take a second to plan out my day, what exactly I'm going to do, what I'm going to eat to some extent, if I'm going to work out, and if so, kind of figuring out when. So I think just taking those 5 minutes, either right before you go to bed or first thing in the morning, to just take a second and like assess your day as a whole. That's going to be the best thing overall to kind of staying on track with your diet. Because otherwise I feel like we're being thrown into this thing where like a lot of people, if they have kids, now they're also being like homeschool or like teacher and mom and worker, like it's a lot. And so if you don't just take those 5 minutes to really take a look at your day and say, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to get a little bit of structure? Then I feel like it's going to be really hard to kind of stick to anything. So I know research has looked at comparing like the 3 meals a day versus 5 meals a day. And there's really no one set like best option. It's really what's going to be best for you in creating a calorie deficit. So if weight loss or fat loss is your goal, it's all about what's going to make a calorie deficit.
Okay. I guess also when because you bring up a good point about people being home and like doing things that are not necessarily their routine, whether it be homeschooling or just being with their kids. A lot of people would say, okay, you wake up or like some people might abandon that plan and be like, I'm going to work out. I have all the right intentions.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to like say, like if you can't work out or whatever, and then you just say the day is a wash, like I'm going to eat whatever I want. Like, how do people stay motivated in terms of like, if they can't work out, how do they stay motivated to still eat healthy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I won't be able to, I might work out today. I'm not 100% sure. I planned on doing it at 2:00 and it did not happen, but I just kind of changed a little bit. Like I might not splurge as much just because I know I didn't really get a good, solid, hard workout in. Whereas if I did get a really intense workout in, I might say like, oh, well, maybe I'll have this or that after dinner. It's not as big of a deal. But I think I'm kind of getting back off track here a little bit, but I think
overall,
overall,
on any track, by the way.
Yeah.
You what?
We're not on any track.
That's good. I'm glad.
This train is always going off the rails. So.
So true. You know.
But yeah, I think overall now I don't even remember what your question was. Something about people working out.
I just sort of feel like, because if sometimes I'll be like, I mean, from my own experience, I'll be like, oh, I have all the intentions of working out, and then I'm like you, I'll be like, crap, I'm not going to work out today. I'm just going to eat everything in sight because it's a bad cheat day or whatever.
Yes. So then you kind of revamp it as like, oh, well, I already messed up, so the whole day's a wash. That's the worst thing you can do. Instead, kind of think of like let's take dinner, for example. If you're like, all right, the whole day's a wash, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger. That's fine. But how can you make it a little bit healthier? Almost try to like challenge yourself, make it kind of like a game. Like, and if you take like, I don't know, I'm thinking like a cheeseburger and a Coke and a fry type meal, like how can I tweak this just slightly to make it a little bit healthier instead of just going like completely from like 100 to 0 on like the motivation scale. It's just going to be that much harder the next day to kind of get back on track. You're kind of just always going to be like over exceeding calories and then probably way under exceeding your calories to make up for it. And it's just this constant yo-yo.
And like, for example, using that meal that you just suggested, how would you say to make that meal a little bit healthier, like a cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke? Like, how would you make that healthier?
So I always recommend thinking of 4 components at every single meal. So a protein source, which your protein there would be obviously the meat. So you would keep that. And then one source of ideally a whole grain. In that situation, obviously you wouldn't have a whole grain, but you've got the fried potatoes for the French fries. So maybe instead of having both the bun and the French fries, maybe choose one. If you're not a big fan of French fries, which then you're crazy and I don't trust you, but then get rid of the French fries and eat the bun, or just get rid of the bun, eat just the patty, the cheeseburger patty, and then have the French fries. And then the fat, I always recommend a fat. So far we have protein, whole grain, now we're on fat. Making sure you always have a fat in there. So that could be the cheese on the cheeseburger. It's also definitely going to count with the French fries that were fried in oil. Ideally, I recommend a healthier fat than that, but in this situation, that's okay. And then the last one is obviously fiber. So vegetables. So making sure there's a vegetable, which that's the one that's really lacking there. So that's what I want you to try to incorporate. So maybe you steam some frozen broccoli or something and you throw it with it, or maybe you throw together a mixed green salad or something. But what that's going to do is it's overall going to provide a lot more nutrition overall. You're going to get vitamins, you're going to get minerals, you're going to get fiber in that meal. And I do recommend eating that first so that hopefully you eat a little bit less of the other stuff like the French fries.
Awesome. Annie, do we have some more Instagram questions?
Yes, but before I get to that, did you guys already tackle caffeine?
Mm-mm.
A little bit, but no, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just curious. Bryce is drinking probably 15.
All right, throw me under the bus.
I have 1 coffee a day, and you have 36.
Annie actually has been really good. You told me you've been making like a shake, and that's really your only coffee source, your caffeine source.
No, so I had to stop doing the shakes because protein powder bloats me so bad.
Oh yeah. Were you using whey protein?
No, even the vegan one. I switched.
So Annie, sorry to interrupt once again, but like with protein, a lot of people, Annie did a poll, obviously, which helped me, but it was like, I drink so much whey protein a day, crazy amount. But has there been better studies like with vegan protein, like the plant-based, that less bloat, or is it?
Well, not necessarily, because sometimes it could be made with like peas or some other type of legume that is high in what's called FODMAPs. And so for some people that could be a high FODMAP food that causes bloating. So if someone has bloating issues, usually that's a sign that they're not digesting something properly. So oftentimes that's something that's an indigestible carb or basically a fiber. So, I mean, it's totally hit or miss as far as like if a vegan protein is going to bloat someone or whey protein, some protein powders in general, just the way that they're processed, people don't tolerate them well. So in that case, I might say, let's try to throw a different source of protein in your shake altogether. Maybe you could do hemp seeds. Maybe you could do, if you're not lactose intolerant, maybe like some Greek yogurt or something like that for protein instead of a powder.
Okay. All right. So sorry, back to coffee. Thank you for that.
Yes.
That's very
So
helpful.
you eat how much coffee? 36 cups a
I've been
day?
going to my local Starbucks and I've been getting a venti cold brew, and then I've been coming home and drinking a second and third cup. But I mean, I put ice. I just brew it in my coffee. Look at her face. Her face is like terrified.
No.
It's so much coffee. It's so much. I mean, I'm gonna have a heart attack. Like my blood pressure is gonna be through the roof.
First of all, you have to pee like 1,000 times a day.
I already have to pee constantly. So this amplifies it to 1,000,000.
Yeah, so that is a lot of caffeine. I'm wondering if maybe you just don't metabolize some people, they don't metabolize caffeine as well as others. So you can just guzzle it down all day long. Other people, I would probably have like heart palpitations if I drank that much coffee, or like be like this like all day. So
no, and I don't get shaky. I'm still like, what were you saying, Annie?
No, Angie gets heart palpitations off of like a grande cold brew.
Lightweight, you lightweight.
Oh my gosh, that's because Starbucks is so strong.
I can do a quad latte and be unfazed. Like
Annie does a quad latte.
It's impressive.
It is, maybe it is different. I'm really, and I told Annie this yesterday, I was like, I have got to like reel it in, because obviously at a certain point, it just doesn't do anything. Like my first few drinks, I'm like, I'm miming how to drink a coffee. But in my first few drinks, I'm like, okay, I feel like I have this like energy. But then after that, like you lose it. It's like when you take a drag of a cigarette, which we don't have to get into, but it's like
just like that.
The first one is like amazing, and then the rest of it's like I could never, like it's like does nothing for me.
Yeah, you're basically building up such a high tolerance that like you're gonna get yourself to a point where like you can literally drink like 400 ounces of caffeine or coffee and not really feel anything. So I would just reel it back for sure. I typically don't recommend more than like 300 milligrams at a time, which I'll be honest is like a grande drink at Starbucks. So you're kind of already over that with your first venti of the day. But what I can do is, I mean, over time, if you're not hydrating with other things, it could potentially lead to dehydration, especially if you're like sweating a lot. I'm trying to think, there's not really like a ton of huge negative side effects from, I mean, if you're tolerating it well and you don't have any other or heart conditions or anything, but I say just try to reel it back. Like maybe cut it in half, maybe do like half.
That's what I've started doing. I mean, today literally is the first day. See, I tell you, I'll like implement something from one day, and then I'm gonna again. Also, speaking of caffeine, I guess I've been having some, and I don't know about Annie if you've had this, but I've been having some issues with alcohol in this stagnation. I mean, in this quarantine, like it feels like we're on Zoom calls and, you know, everyone's doing virtual happy hours and stuff. And I'll sit on a call for like, 3 hours sometimes chatting with people, and I'll be drinking and everything. And then I won't be able to sleep at night. I have no idea if this has anything to do with nutritional value, but is there, like, I can't drink wine anymore. I can't drink beer. The same thing happens to me. The only thing that works, which doesn't really work that well, is like tequila.
Yeah.
Or like,
also, you might not be able to sleep because of the amount of caffeine you drink.
It's literally exactly what I was going to say. Right, I was like, maybe it has something to do with the 80 ounces of coffee.
Okay. But aside from that, let's move on from there. We're done talking about caffeine and my intake of it. No, but really, like, do you think doing like having those sugary drinks like margaritas and other stuff, I feel like, does that affect your sleep or your nutrition, your sugar intake? Would that
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's going to affect your sleep for sure. Alcohol before. It's going to affect body composition 100% if you're having issues with like losing, especially like belly fat, things like that. It's definitely linked to like the really sugary alcoholic drinks or just large amounts of alcohol in general. So I would say, first of all, what are you mixing your alcohol with? If it's things like Coke or lemonade or cranberry juice, things that have sugar, then obviously that's going to be one culprit to kind of cut back on. And then of course the amount overall, if you can reduce it to do half the amount of alcohol that you're doing right now, even just making that, small little habit change where you're cutting it in half, then that's going to be just one helpful tip. And trying to also space it, like, I feel like your caffeine, I got to address that issue again, just because it's almost like, when you go back to that second or third full container of, I'm holding my hands up, people can't see, but like, is it more so because you need the energy or because you just enjoy the taste, or like what is it?
It's a few-fold. But one is, I mean, I like the taste of it, and I drink just straight black coffee with a Splenda, which I will stop doing now. But I'll drink that because of the taste, but also like because I'm intermittent fasting. I do intermittent fast, and so that helps like not But I also feel like at the same time as what we were saying, it's like, I think it may be just the taste. So I could almost probably do like decaf cold brew.
That's a fantastic
like
idea.
I could have one and see how that goes, and then just do decaf cold brew, because I think the taste of it just like makes me not want to eat.
Okay.
Not that it's like, not that that's a thing, but I think it does curb your appetite. So while I'm in fasting, I can take the time to not have to worry
It's something
about
different than just water. And I get that, sure. So I think if it's a taste thing, then yeah, maybe you could switch to decaf. If it's something where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just so tired all day long, then that's an issue we for sure need
I'll
to
be
address.
tired all day long no matter what. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So then
he literally, I feel like I'm tired all day long, but I'm being dramatic. Bryce is legitimately tired all day long.
how many hours of sleep do you get on average?
But that's the thing. I get amazing sleep. Like I'll get 8+ hours of sleep.
Huh, that's good.
And I honestly think I need to get blood work done. This is like a bigger.
Angie's like, oh, that's good. I have so much work to do with this guy.
I know. I'm telling you, you can make a fortune.
Where do I begin?
I know. I think it has to, like, it's all about my REM cycle, because I like you said, I have to pee constantly. So I have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. So I think my REM is getting messed up.
Your quality of sleep. Yeah. You're probably getting a lot of like hours wise, but the quality sucks. Yeah. And especially like if you're mentioning like the alcohol or caffeine, I think that's going to have a huge impact. So if you could just
be fair, I do drink a shitload of coffee, but I don't drink alcohol every day, which is, I think, probably a saving grace. But
that is good for sure.
All right. Well, I don't think everyone wants to know about this case study. Angie, you and I can talk. You can talk offline about this. But Annie, what are some other Instagram questions that we had with people?
I have one more thing that I'm going to deflect onto you really quick. I've run this by Angie in the past.
Oh, really? I'm wondering what this is.
Okay, we have 10 minutes, guys. So this is the last one, and then we'll get to our Instagram questions. So, what do you think about Bryce's 2 Quest Bar special?
Yes, Angie. Okay, so let's give some people some context here. So that's my go-to snack. Like I love, because I feel like Quest bars are on the market the like lowest in probably maybe not lowest in calorie, but like lowest in carbohydrates. They have no sugar, or 1 gram of sugar or something. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy those, but I'll eat like 2 at a time. That's like my thing, and Annie calls it the diarrhea special.
100%. That is a lot.
So go ahead. Anyway,
it's a lot of synthetic fibers, which that can definitely cause you to poop a lot or have diarrhea, but maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't actually. I typically do not have diarrhea.
That's good. But it is a lot of sucralose, which remember I talked about that at the very beginning. Same thing as Splenda. So sometimes you'll see it on a label as sucralose, but large amounts can impact your gut microbiome and can really change the bacteria. You have all these good gut bacteria or types of strands in your intestines. So I think cutting back on those kinds of things that are like really high in artificial sweeteners and synthetic fibers is definitely a good start. I know what you mean though about it being like really high in protein while like also being filling because it's a lot of fiber, but you can easily do the same thing with like, let's say you were to make a smoothie that had maybe like a ton of flaxseed in it. So there's your fiber and it's a natural source. You're also getting omega-3s from that. Instead of that synthetic, I think they use like soluble corn fiber in their bars. Yeah. And then for the protein, you could do a protein powder if you want, like a plant-based protein powder or the other options I talked about before, but then you can also add some fresh produce to it. So instead of doing so much like condensed processed food, because it is still very processed, then you could throw
I mean, that's the thing that you're saying. It's made in a lab. Are there any bars out there like that you would recommend, that you recommend to people? I'm trying to think of, there's like, they're not protein necessarily, but they're like what?
Yeah. Well, I'm biased because I do work with Go Macro very closely. So I am a huge fan of their bars. They do have a good amount of sugar though, but they're also kind of geared more towards people that are active. So it's completely fine.
Wouldn't you say that natural sugar is obviously better than?
Oh, for sure.
If you're gonna eat it, it's better to have just the natural stuff than the crap that is made in the lab.
Right, exactly. And I think, I mean, other bars, RX bar is really popular. Lara bar is great too. It's not going to be as high in protein. There are so many different bars on the market. I'm blanking on other brands, but um,
No cow. No cow. I
mm,
think, Annie, did you say that one? It's like, that's what Ben
no
recommended. The
cow.
no
I've
cow.
heard of it. I would have to look into it though. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
really know much about it.
I think it's just, yeah, I don't know, but I don't know the difference. I mean, they actually don't taste bad either. I mean, I've tried every bar in the lot. So
Yeah.
I was just curious because I mean, it's something.
We're going to stop with the Quest bars.
Okay, we're
Okay.
gonna stop at the Quest
Stopping
bar.
Quest bars.
I think you've successfully moved away
Mm-hmm.
from those.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick hit question only for time's sake.
Okay.
What is your recommendation for at-home food allergy or intolerance tests?
Okay, so this is hard to answer in like really fast, but I'm really skeptical of the at-home tests because they test what's called IgG. And so when you actually want to test for an allergy or a sensitivity, you're going to want to look at IgE, which is a type of antibody that's actually relative to an allergen compared to something that's IgG, which can actually show up as a false positive, basically. So like I give this example sometimes where if I were to eat a banana and then take that test, I'm going to have antibodies for bananas in my body when I do that test, which is just one simple little finger prick. And so what it can falsely tell me is that I have a sensitivity to bananas simply because it's catching on those antibodies of what I just ate. So it does often find foods that you eat frequently and have that be like a false, oh, you have an allergy. The other issue I see is I will have someone with like celiac or someone with lactose intolerance or someone that actually has a very clear allergy, take one of those tests, and then the test shows like it's green light, which means like good to go, like no issue at all. So there's just very little accuracy with it whatsoever. I'd say if you can get to an allergen and actually do an IgE test instead of the at-home test, or if anything, I do know some people do have really good success with, which is something called MRT, which is mediator release test. And that tests something a little bit different in the blood. So that's another option. And that is actually an at-home test, but you do have to go to a lab to actually get your blood drawn and then you send it in yourself. But that's another option. I tried to answer that really fast. I'm sorry.
No, that was good. Thank you.
That was
And then
great.
last Instagram question. This is also probably, answer this as fast as you can. It's more in depth though. What's the best way to calculate calorie intake or macros for your activity level?
I think I can answer this in like 1 minute.
He's like, God.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So,
Maybe we can simplify it in terms of like, how important is counting macros? Because that seems like a really big deal for people who are trying to lose weight or trying to like gain whatever, like, but you're eating so much more. I just am curious is like, should you be looking at calories or should you be looking at macros if you're going to start doing one?
I think you need to consider both for sure. So you need to make a calorie deficit. Again, this is only talking specifically about weight loss. So maybe get either an RMR test done or at least like, which means resting metabolic rate, or if you don't have access to a physical test, then just like try to find a calculator online that can give you a rough estimate of your metabolic rate. And then make sure to subtract either subtract some of the calories that you're going to consume for the day so you're in a deficit, or make sure to increase your activity levels so that you make a deficit with your expenditure, right? So, or you can do a little bit of both. Don't make it too large. Obviously, you want to make it small and sustainable, like a 250 to 300 calorie deficit for women and about a 500 to 700 calorie deficit for men, just kind of to start. Obviously that number can vary a little bit too, but as far as macros, that's going to matter as well, because usually with weight loss, I have clients on a much higher protein diet so they can hold on to a lot of lean mass. Protein is very satisfying. So I try to have at least like 25%, if not 30% of their calories coming from protein. And then,
Hey, Annie.
and then it's the type of macronutrients that people get caught up in though, because sometimes they'll only look at just carbs, protein, fat, and they won't take into consideration micronutrients or vitamins, minerals. So something like white bread isn't going to be the same thing in terms of carbohydrates as like quinoa. So obviously you're getting way more from the quinoa. You're getting fiber and iron and magnesium and all these other nutrients that are going to overall be beneficial for not only just your health, but also very satisfying, like fiber, that you won't get from the same amount of carbohydrates, say from white bread. So that's another thing that I'll do sometimes too, is I'll make sure that they're on a really high fiber diet. And oftentimes you'll see something on labels that say like net carbs. So basically what that means is they took the fiber out. That's what Quest Bar does. So Quest Bars actually have maybe like 20 grams of carbs, but then like they subtract the fiber. So that's one way to think. I see the message that says less than 1 minute. So I'm trying to talk fast.
You're fine.
No, that's great. Well, Angie, before we go, tell everybody where they can follow you, how they can get a hold of you too.
Okay, Eleat Nutrition, ELEAT. It's a little play on words, Eleat Nutrition. That's where I'm at on Instagram, and you can find me at eleatnutrition.com as well.
Great. Angie, thank you so much for being here. What were you going to say, Annie?
Thank you. We are going to absolutely have you on again because we didn't even get to everything that we wanted.
No, not even close. You need to be like our correspondent.
We'll find another time to bring you back. Follow Bryce and I at Nobody's Pod, at Annie_Wilk, at Bryce Advice. That's on Instagram and TikTok. Twitter is at Nobody's the Pod. Same for our personals. And then you can always email us at noexpertallopinion@gmail.com. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers out there too.
Yes. I thought you were saying that to me, and I was like, what?
No, well, our moms are the only ones that will listen to this. So we just want to shout them out. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we hope you have an amazing weekend.
And more importantly, a safe and healthy week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
It hasn't kicked us off. Okay, bye.
Bye.